r/AskReddit. What superpowers seem great in films but would suck to have in real life? From Wormhole Extreme, recurring fake TV show in the amazing sci-fi series Stargate, actor, so I'm having a little trouble with scene 27. It says that I'm out of phase, so can pass my hand through solid matter or walk through walls. Producer, yeah, 'cause you're out of phase. Actor, so, how come I don't fall through the floor? My Hero Academia actually addresses this one in an interesting way. For Mirio to walk through a wall, he has to activate his power just on the part of it passing through, or else the other parts of his body would fall through the floor. Essentially, the first leg is intangible and steps through a wall, and once it's in the other 80, moves to the next. Indestructible skin because I might be kidnapped and C4 shoved up my bumhole. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Please don't put it up there, please. Well, if it ain't the invisible cunt. Mind reading, especially if you can't shut it off. Imagine being in a room with a dozen people and just being blasted with every thought at once. What if it's more than that? What if you go to a baseball game with 40,000 people? You'd melt down and go insane quickly. Twilight Zone had an interesting episode about a guy who worked at a bank or something who gained the ability to read minds. He read his co-worker's mind and discovered he was going to take the money from the vault in the bank at the end of the day, and use the money to fly all over the world. The mind reader freaks out and tries to warn the boss, but everyone just thinks he's crazy. He finally confronts the thief, and the thief says, "Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I wasn't going to actually do it. I was just fantasizing about it." People think thoughts all the time that don't reflect who they are, what they're actually thinking. I used to think that being able to hear what people are thinking would be awesome, but then social media proved me wrong. Edit. Holy crap, my first gold. Thank you, kind stranger. Yeah, also sometimes when having Christmas family dinner you don't want to know how itchy your grandmother's vagina is because of that pesky fungal infection. X-ray vision, because face it, looking at skeletons all day every day will get old fast if you have an appreciation for fleshy bits. Equals. But most of the time superheroes can turn their abilities off. There are exceptions of course, but still. I bet if you could rapidly heal you couldn't get intoxicated. That's even mentioned in movies. Wolverine is always drinking, yet you never really see him drunk. Cap even says because of his accelerated metabolism, he can't get drunk. Actually, that would be a great superpower to have. Think of all the bar bets you could win. Deadpool is a perfect example of why you don't want healing as your superpower. You go insane. I TT a lot if people acting like most superpowers aren't toggleable. Having the power of a clenched fist would suck because then you wouldn't be able to type or open doors. Edit. Thanks for my first gold of the year. Running really fast but with actual physics. If you ran past people at the speed of light you would most likely heat up to the air enough to the point to incinerate nearby people and objects. So just only run at like 50 miles per hour. Dial it back so you don't hurt yourself, like we already do with such things. Nearby people and objects. No, you'd destroy countries. I feel like super strength would be dangerous. Obviously there are some super great benefits to it, but I feel like the initial learning curve would be really dangerous. High five to a stranger. Their arm is in Canada. Pet a dog. Congrats. You have a new fur pelt. Beating off. God save your soul. Who exactly are you beating off? Because your own dick would have super strength too, so no problem there, really, but having sex might be problematic. Imagine the Incredible Hulk ducking some girl off Tinder. I don't see that ending well for any of them, monsieur. This is so true. It's actually a recurring theme in a lot of Superman comics. Imagine being so strong, so powerful, that you have to walk around actively holding back 99.9999% of your strength. Sure, broken coffee mugs and destroyed furniture sound like a legitimate hassle, but imagine accidentally killing someone with a tap on the shoulder because you collapsed there. entire torso. If you hit someone or something too hard, you could trigger seismic events, cause tsunamis, or collapse a city into a crater. Hence why I don't like it when people say he's just a Boy Scout or that he's uninteresting because he's too powerful. His greatest liability is his strength. He has to be a Boy Scout, else he should become a walking extinction level event. Laser vision. Having to wear those special glasses all the time, like indoors or at night, is going to make everyone assume you're either a D-bag, blind, or a creep. Edit for clarification. Thanks to all who pointed out Cyclops doesn't have actual laser vision. We learned something new. Now for sake of conversation and the general comic book hero novice, we are going to say it's someone like him but has laser vision or his power, and it must be contained via some form or glasses, visor, or goggles. I assume you are referring to Cyclops, IIRC. There was an origin story that suggested he couldn't control his ability due to a head injury he suffered as a child. I could be mistaken though. Most of them if you can't keep them to yourself. Imagine having healing abilities or the ability to heal others. In one case you're probably gonna get kidnapped and God knows what. In the other it's the above but enslavement instead, because now the entire ducking population of Earth is going to expect you to give up everything and do nothing but heal others 24/7. And then you get so burnt out from healing people that you get burnt out and accidentally forget to not turn your sister into a grotesque blob of spare limbs and other body parts. Read worm. Shapeshifting. You might end up pursuing perfection so much you end up looking like a weird doll. Also it looks like it hurts. And if it's somewhat grounded in reality, then if you were to shapeshift into something bigger than you might have to binge eat yourself up to size. Super strength. Imagine how many things you'd accidentally break. Heck, you could accidentally hurt someone giving them a hug or shaking someone's hand. There's a Superman comic where he talks about living in a world of paper, always having to be careful. In Sky High, the commander gets angry about the coach classifying his son as a sidekick. When he goes to pick up the phone to call the school, out of anger and frustration, it crumbles in his hand. He opens a drawer to reveal that he has multiple phones just for reasons like this. Flight. To put it shortly, there are many ways you could die unless you're also invulnerable. Yeah, and literally everybody you know would try to get you to do their errands. It's rush hour. It will take me forever to pick up the food, but you could just fly over there and back in no time at all. It would only take you a minute. Please. Quote, I said no, Mom, and I mean it. Lack of oxygen, especially if you went too high too quickly, the windburn, the freezing temperatures, increased radiation exposure. Sounds like a blast. Imagine being an airbender and having butt burps. On a more serious note, there was one superhero film with a teenage couple that had elemental powers. One could make fire and the other one had ice breath. They couldn't get intimate because they'd give each other burns and frostbites on accident. Odd. You world think they would be a better match than a normal human, cause they could at least activate the power to the affected parts. Doorman. Ability to change self into a door. Sucks both ways but hella funny. How can this ability ever be useful? Running from the police. Steal a wallet, run into an alley and bam, door. Hyper fast running speed. The amount of food you'll need to eat to not burn off muscle and fat would be astronomical. Kinda reminds me of the Gone books. The author goes into that with one of the characters but that doesn't really go anywhere. Immortality would have to be the absolute worst, no escape from the constant pain of everyone you love dying. If I had the opportunity to achieve immortality, I would make it so that I'm immune to everything related to old age and sickness. However, the only exception is injury. For example, me being immune from drug-resistant illnesses, but not to fire. That way I can fulfill dreams only immortals can but still be human and not look like I have hero's immunity or something. I've seen other people saying invisibility, but they're forgetting the biggest downside of it. Now theoretically there's two ways to be invisible, by somehow replicating the scenery behind you on your skin, clothes like an advanced form of camouflage, or just by simply not reflecting light at all. This would make you completely invisible, but it would also mean you'd be blind if light simply ignored your retina. Image an invisible daredevil. Now that's a blind guy the first wouldn't want to fight. Super speed. Could get killed pretty easily. Invisibility. Would be blinded. Talking to animals. Reading minds. If you couldn't shut it off. That's assuming invisibility works by making light ignore you. You don't consider that it might just be constant field of hallucination to hide you. Or magic. Since if light is ignoring you, why not take it a step further greater than super speed. In order to not hit anything while you run, your mind would have to go as fast as your legs. I don't think anyone's mind can go that fast. Another one would be invisibility. If you were born with this power, you practically wouldn't exist and your parents would be quite confused. Also, if you were not seen, people would constantly bump into you, push you, and you might get locked out of public or private areas. If you developed this power over time, your parents would be immensely concerned if you were not visible. I think most speedsters are also written with fast mental processing for that reason. I know that's at least true of the Flash. Because science have a good series of videos on superpowers that you wouldn't want in real life. Here's the one on flight. I always thought that if I got the power of flight, I'd just use it for extra long jumps lol. I hate these videos. I'll use this one to explain why. His first point is, you can't fly too high without special equipment. How the duck is that worse than not being able to fly at all? Then, the talks about flying too quickly when it's -10 degrees Celsius or colder out. I already don't do that. I don't walk outdoors in that temperature either, let alone fly naked at 60 miles per hour outdoors. He's looking for excuses to pretend that flying is bad. Then, he mentions that you might hit birds or some shit. He talks about gigantic planes that move insanely fast. Well, I'm a person, and you just told me not to fly more than 60 miles per hour for no reason. And, hey, when I drive at 60 miles per hour, I can see what is in front of me and I don't crash into birds, moving cars, or buildings. And then, after complaining about the need for a helmet and goggles, he points out that the government might not react well to superpowers. Well, duck. You could say that about any superpowers. Way to ruin the whole thought experiment, if anything. Now that I've thought about it, I want to be able to fly more. Skip foot traffic. Skip the stairs. Cool party trick. Trip less. He says that floating isn't the version of superflight we see in pop culture, but he's lying. Superman floats all the time. It's pretty damn intimidating. Having abilities of spider, or being rich is a superpower. Don't want my uncle or parents to die this early in my life. True, it seems like everyone's parents die. Iron Man's parents, dead. Batman's parents, dead. Spider-Man's parents, plus uncle, dead. What kinda wings we talking about here? I mean, if my superpower was I was able to conjure up unlimited Buffalo Wild Wings, that would be awesome. I could solve world hunger. There is a really funny scene in an episode of Sailor Moon where she transforms inside an apartment, and the angel wings on her costume keep knocking things over as she does her "in the name of the moon" speech. Invisibility. It's such a creepy power. It's always used in shady, creepy ways. Invisibility would be great. I could get so much more done at work that way because customers wouldn't be able to disturb me. In reality, you wouldn't be able to see anything because there's no light reflecting off your eyes. Shrinking or growing. Alongside of shrinking and growing, you are now altering your atoms and compressing or expanding them beyond what is physically possible. You'd just explode in every instance. But if the superpower interacted reasonably with physics, you'd still now, if you grew, spawn flesh mates, bacteria, viruses of gargantuan proportions. These super microbes would fall off you and devour all the multicellular world. Their skin, too tough to penetrate. Conversely, shrinking. Now every virus or bacteria is like a tiny bug that you can see trying to stab you with its probosces. Shrinking would only be cool if you marginally shrunk, but not like Ant-Man where it's extreme. Those giant microbes would be unable to survive for a moment at our scale. They would be big water balloons that split immediately.